The Bridgewalker's Journal. Entry 4, their Vamp War Dreams. At 17, I had forgotten about the mysterious and terrifying visitors to my room when I was a little girl, and I had even forgotten my imaginary friend, Barb. Grandmommy bought some land in the country for my family to move to, and I loved it out there. The plot began on the top of a rolling hill with a crystal-clear crystal lake at the bottom. Daddy had the family a fancy double-wide set down on a flat spot with a charming view of the lake from the big windows in the back of the house. The chickens in the yard laid brown eggs with deep orange yolks. Mama and Daddy said that all the bugs the chickens eat give the eggs more protein, and that is why their eggs look so different from the ones from the store. Merle was my Cremella gelding, and Trigger, my brother's black and white paint Shetland, was his friend. It was a goodish life, even if I didn't have very many friends. Then the vampire dreams began. Once again, I was afraid to go to bed, but this time it was because of monsters waiting in my sleep. My dreams were haunted with vampire wars in which myself and some other good vamps were fighting the evil ones. Nightmare after nightmare, the blood of the vampires flowed through my mind as it left their bodies falling to the ground. The ground was drenched with blood as red as roses that filled my nostrils with the copper scent that blood has. I watched my friends die one by one and two by three as the war waged, until I didn't know where anyone else was. My supply of wooden cross arrows for my bow was running low, so I stopped firing at the quickly approaching line of foul, vicious vampires and began running. My blonde hair streamed behind me as I pumped my muscles to run faster, lungs heaving and heart pounding. I ran for my life, only turning occasionally to shoot a closing monster with my trusty bow. Dwindling was my ammo, so I must look for cover. Off to my right was a fallen tree, so I ran for it and jumped over looking for any cover, even though I knew my time was up. I let my back rest against the rough bark to take some deep breaths before peeking out and firing some quick shots. 2 more arrows were left. I killed the closet female on the right and male coming up on my left, and then I was defenseless. I was good with my crossbow, and it had saved me many times as I was a dead-on shot who got the heart almost every time. But even the best shooter must eventually lose, I guessed. So I knelt down behind the tree and waited for my turn to meet the Grim Reaper. The vampires were barreling down with gnashing and saliva dripping from their lolling tongues. Suddenly there was a whoosh sound that filled my head, and I was jerked backwards. I flew through the air in the arms of a vampire who was strong enough to be able to fly. The beat of his wings echoed in my ears. The male vamp took me to a dark castle that was high on a mountain cliff. The handsome vampire carried me through the castle to a room lit by a huge fire and many candles. He sat me gently on an old chaise lounge and stroked my face with a compassionate and loving energy in his eyes. The fear and trembling immediately left my body, and I felt so safe. I reckon the infamous vampire king who stood for ethnicity, as well as teaching vamps to feed without causing harm, had saved my life. The most beautiful lady I ever saw glided up beside the vampire king and laid one hand on his shoulder and the other on my head. Looking into her eyes was oblivion. As I was embraced by the queen, I felt like I was home.